other questions, so let's carry on. Explicit is better than implicit. So this is also coming from our Python import this Easter egg. That's the second statement that we have in that very eloquently written Zen of Python. So what is implicit? Everything that you imply is implicit. I could also say whatever you're assuming is implied or implicit. So it's better to be explicit. Explain yourself. Don't just assume that somebody is going to enter a value that's not 20. We want to explicitly know that it's greater than, less than, or in this case, equal to, which is why we have chained conditions. In a chain condition, we'll introduce the elif word or the elif statement. Elif is short for else if, okay? So for instance, in this example, if we're going to compare the value of x and the value of y, if x is less than y, we can print less. Otherwise, we go ahead and check if x is greater than y, then we can print greater. And then the third option then would be equal to. So let me escape out of this and take a look at the code that we had written earlier. So in our code that was written in Visual Studio Code, we went ahead and said if A is greater than B, then we should say A is greater than B. Else, it's smaller. Now, if we will execute this one more time, we did earlier and enter the value of 25. We said 25 was greater than 20. But if we want it now, and we enter a value of 20, it tells us that 20 is smaller than 20. There's no way that is possible. So what we need to do is update this code. To update it, we need a third option. So rather than having else, we want to do else if. Else if is written as elif. Because in Python, we want to be able to keep things simple and not waste characters and space. So now we know that if A is greater than B, we print that it is larger. If A is less than B, then we say it's smaller. When we use the elif statement, we need to conclude it with an else. Oops, I need to go one more. Now we can say else, print A and B are equal. Everybody okay with that? So in this case, we made sure that we change that to elif. You see else, and so on and so forth. Okay? Does that look good to everyone? So now that we've gotten this, let me show you a few features in Visual Studio Code. In Visual Studio Code, when you see a white dot right here, when I move my mouse there, it becomes an X. When you see a white dot, that means you have not saved your changes. Okay? That means you have not saved your changes. If I go ahead and save it, I will do Control S or Command S to save it. Now that white dot is gone. Now we see our X in there. So that's a quick way you want to note if you have made changes. That's the first thing. The next thing you'll see is that now we have 4 showing up in here because we have added this this folder to our GitHub account. Okay, so if I click on it, it shows me that there are 4 changes. Or if I hover over it, there are 4 changes. What are those 4 changes? You can probably see them in here. This is showing you that a change has been made on this line. This is showing you that this line has been added. So if I had given you this code and I went away and came back, I should be able to see those changes on there. And it's showing me that the changes are in one file. That file is the file that we currently have open. Let me drag this so we can see. So it's in this file that has been modified. It's showing me that this file has been modified. These other files have been added, but this is just the staging area. I can go ahead and commit them. All those other things we can talk about. It has nothing to do with Python. Everything I'm talking about now has to do with your source control, which is GitHub. But it's good that you see all those things and it makes sense to you why all these colors are coming up. Okay, so everything on our local machine is good. But if we want to push it to the cloud, if we want to push it to GitHub repository, then we can go ahead and commit and push and do all those fun stuff. But for now, let's concentrate on our code. We've made these changes. Now we should be able to get something that's accurate and not saying that 20 is smaller. So let's go ahead and execute that. It comes up and asks us for a number. I enter 20. Now it says 20 and 20 are equal because we've gone ahead and captured that fact that A cannot only be greater than B, it can also be less than B, or it can be equal to. Sounds good to everyone?
Yeah.
What questions do you have? So that's one way of doing it, right? Let me copy this over and switch back to Jupyter notebooks so we can play with it as well. It might be getting lonely out there now, so let's go check it out and see what it's up to. So our Jupyter notebook, this is day 3. Let's go ahead and add the code that I've copied over. Did I copy it? No, I did not. Let me go back and copy it and then paste it. Yeah, so that's our code that we had in there. So we talked about chained expressions. We could have also nested that expression. How do we go about nesting an expression? To nest the expression the same way, you can have a yes or no. Start by is A equal to B? If yes, we go ahead and execute that equality sign. If it's not equal to B, then we go ahead and check if it's less than or equal to. So that would be a nested group. We have an if statement inside an if statement. Okay. So how do I do that in this case? Let me escape and go back to Jupyter. In here, I'll start by saying, I don't want to type too much, but I also want to make sure that you guys see clearly what's going on. If A is the same as B, make sure that you're using 2 equal signs. Because if you're using 1, that's an assignment operator. If you're using 2, that's a comparison operator. So if those 2 are the same, then I'll go ahead and print A is equal to B. Otherwise, I can go ahead and do 2 things. Now this becomes a nested statement where I can have another if statement inside that else block. So inside that else block, I have another if statement that will say if A is greater than B, then go ahead and print A is greater than B. Make sense? And then now we can have our else say A is less than B. So it all depends on you which one is better to write. Okay. So in here I've written this. Let's check it out again. We're going to say A is going to get the value that we're going to enter. Make sure that it's converted to an integer and it looks good, but we're saying B is going to be 20. First, we're going to check if the 2 values are equal. If it is, you're going to print A is equal to B. Otherwise, we're going to have a nested if statement inside, or a nested if-else statement. So we check here, our condition is A greater than B? Then we say A is greater than B. Otherwise, there can't be any other option. If it's not equal, if it's not greater, it has to be less. So we can just use our else in there. So if I execute this, it's asking for a number. Let's say 21. 21 is greater than 20. Let's execute it again. It's asking for a number. 19. Let's say 17. 17 is less than 20. And let's execute it again and put in 20. 20 is equal to 20. So that's how you conditionally execute based on what value is entered. Looks good to everyone? Questions, comments, concerns? So it's very easy to make mistakes and errors, right? If I go ahead and I forgot to write this as a conditional operator and I wrote it as an assignment operator and I execute it, it's already telling me you're speaking gibberish. You have to go back and learn your ABCs, right? Remember, Python is a language. It's normal for someone that does not know French to speak broken French. This is broken Python, right? It's normal for someone that does not know Spanish to speak broken Spanish. In this case, again, we have a syntax error. If you don't know Python, if you're not familiar with operators, arithmetic operators, assignment operators, comparison operators, logical operators, then you're going to have a hard time understanding what this is. It can be a turnoff and discourage you from writing code, but all you need to do is go ahead and change that from assignment operator to a comparison operator, execute it, and you're doing good. Sounds good to everyone? Next problem is when you have troublesome people like myself, instead of them entering a number, they go ahead and type in ABC in here. If you type in ABC, get an error. Invalid literal for int ABC. It does not know what that is. That is a traceback error, okay, based on the value. So we'll talk about that next. Just want to emphasize again, we've looked at chained and nested expressions. A chained expression, you have if, else if, or elif, and else. In a nested operation, you have if else or if elif, or whichever combination of those within an if statement or an else statement. So you have to understand which way is the best way of doing it. In programming and in anything in life, it's always good to have a plan. So that's why it's good to draw out these flowcharts. When you draw out a flowchart, these diamonds always mean a condition, and it's a whole process to talk about each one of them. The rectangles are usually a piece of data, and so on and so forth. And the arrows tell you the direction to take based on a decision or the instructions that we're following.